How we looking, full moon? Looking good. Shout out to full moon. The regular council meeting for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 is called to order at 7:01 p.m. First, we're going to have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call, please?
Roll call. Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Present.
Councilperson Erbom.
Present.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Winters.
Present.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Christia Lu, Village Manager, and sitting in for Attorney Geller is Attorney Elbert. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second? Second by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Hearing none, moving on. Good and welfare is the first good and welfare. You guys will also have another good and welfare. And during the G section resolutions, everybody will have a chance to speak about anything at all. Hearing, seeing none, moving on. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't hear about the good and welfare. I was planning to talk before the agenda was approved. It's already passed everyone.
All right, we'll go right back to it after this. All right. Do I have a motion to approve do I have a second for the consent agenda?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Martin. Madam Clerk, may I see the roll call?
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Erbom.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Ms. Perella, do you want to come up for the good and welfare, or you want to come up and speak now for the good and welfare? Or you want to wait till the next good and welfare or later on?
I'll do it now, yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Appreciate it, because it's about the agenda.
Okay.
Item, but it's already passed.
Okay.
Good evening, how are you guys?
So good. How are you?
Council, congratulations on your.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I wanted to talk about the consent agenda. First of all, I was a little surprised that everything went to the consent agenda, being that most of the items just passed the committee meeting and not the council meeting. So it should have been the second hearing for all those items. But I wanted to just make it clear about, because I see the resolution for the fitness equipment on the nature trail. And it talks about 36,000 being used from the trust funds, right? But for the fitness equipment, there are $20,000 that were sitting there. It's been sitting there for a while. So it shouldn't be the $36,000 taken from the trust funds for the parks. That was a grant that was given to El Portal 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and there were $20,000 sitting there for the fitness equipment. So I think it's on the budget, on the contingency, or something like that. It was always reflecting the $20,000. And also, I wanted to ask about the nature trail, the slab for the fitness equipment being $37,000 or something like that. If it was ever presented, if any of the council members were presented with the quotes or the plans for the actual slab, because $38,000 for 1,300 square foot of, it's a lot. It's roughly $6 a square foot, so it's $7,000, not $37,000. But again, it's just my concern. So if there's any the manager or have any clarification on that, on those funds being dispersed from either the grant or the trust fund. Because this is a big chunk. It's $20,000 that never got used for fitness equipment.
Okay, so, all right, so first of all, not everything is in consent agenda. So consent agenda has 9 items. The resolutions G items have 12 items. The G items also have the more important items, which are like the ordinances and things like that, that have to have a second reading.
Got it.
The consent agenda, there's nothing that has to go through 2 readings in the consent agenda. As a matter of fact, in consent agenda, most of the stuff is formalities. You have mutual aids, you have interlocal agreements, you have things like that. The as far as the nature trail equipment and the nature trail and the trust fund is it's essentially for that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
not for the fitness equipment. The fitness equipment had its own grant. It was $20,000 given to El Portal. That's been there.
But I was going,
May
go
I?
ahead, but I was gonna-
Okay, no, that wasn't for fitness equipment. That $20,000 was for the nature trail expansion. It was not meant for
It was for
equipment.
fitness equipment
No, sir.
specifically. Okay,
All right, but
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else for good and welfare? All right, jumping to the resolutions, ordinances. Mr. Attorney, if you would swear anybody in who may even potentially be speaking about any of the site plans in the G section, just have them stand up and put their right hand up and swear in for us.
Yeah. Anybody that's speaking, please stand.
Anybody who may speak or potentially speak, just please stand, put your right hand up.
Yeah. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. Thank you. Please seat.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Ms. Hammonds? Ms. Hammonds? How are you? Ms. Hammonds, we're on the first resolution, which is the site plan for 256 Northeast 90th Street. All right, Ms. Hammonds, for this site plan, 256 Northeast 90th Street, has anything been changed or altered in the plan? Were there any conditions or anything like that for this?
No, this is exactly what, the same exact application in all form that was reviewed and approved by the planning board.
Same thing that passed in the planning and zoning committee?
Exactly.
Exactly the same, thank you very much. Do I have any questions or comments from the council? We've already passed it. Hearing none, do I have any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve, resolution G1?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Urban,
Second.
second by Councilperson Winters. I'm trying to figure out everybody's voice back there. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call, please?
Roll call, Councilperson Winters,
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, Councilperson Urban,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. The next one is garage enclosure for the 66 Northwest 87th Street. G2. How you doing? Ms. Hammonds, has there been any anything that's alternated since the planning and zoning, any conditions that they had or anything like that?
There has not. This is the exact application that came before you and was approved by the planning and zoning board in.
Thank you very much. Do I have any
November.
questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve resolution G2? Motion to approve resolution G2.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Winters. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call, please?
Councilperson Winters,
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, Councilperson Urban,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sir, take care. Have a good night. Resolution G3, 401 Northeast 86th Street, 401 Northeast 86th Street. Again, I apologize for what you went through. Like I said, last time the planning and zoning bill has been there for at least a decade, so. But, have there been anything that's been alternated, or any changes, or any adjustments, or any conditions?
There have not. This is the same application that came before the planning board and was approved.
Do I have any further questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none. Yes. Go.
Yes, about this item, Luis Pirela, 103 Northeast 89th Street. About this item, I don't know if you guys, I sent you guys an email. So regardless of whoever planted the hedges, right? The issue with this is code enforcement caught it, and it's because of obvious reasons. Health, safety of anyone actually going in that corner. Now, if you look at the hedges, they're just hedges. No, they're like beyond their property line, 25 feet beyond the property line. So they're by the side road, just by the street. So they're even covering the stop sign on that corner. So it's not like if they're on the property line, whoever has hedges, 6 feet, 4 feet, whatever. But we have denied hedges that are 4 feet in height, beautifully kept, and inside their property line or within the property line. And this item is, it's just troubling to me for the council to be okay with having, hedges like that are taking up, the public right of way. It's 25 feet or 12 feet. Because I don't know if the 25 feet is from the middle of the road or is from the side of the road all the way to the property line. But regardless, it's beyond their property line. That's.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe these were reported by somebody to code enforcement. Because if you guys, so just to kind of like let everybody kind of pretty much know, when it comes to, this is something that I think that everybody should kind of keep in mind when it comes to code enforcement, because you'll hear a lot of times, like when somebody does get a code enforcement violation, you'll hear a lot of times, well, there's 3 other houses around the corner that have the same violation. Well, this is kind of like why it's like that. I'll explain. When we got, because for years and years, we had codes that were on the books, but we didn't have anybody enforcing them. We didn't have a real true code enforcement officer. Once we got a real true code enforcement officer and he came in, there were things that were out of code. But a compromise that we kind of met, because he came in and he was like, mayor, manager, there's all these things that are out of code. I'm going to go to every house and tell them to rip these things up. And a lot of it is like, concrete on the front yard that's more than what we allow conform with the green space. But these things have been there, and you had a lot of these residents, and they've been there, they've been living here for 30 years, 20 years, 25 years. So I told him, I said, let's do this. I said, I don't want to, especially at that time, because, we're talking about a few years ago now. So, and, we're in 2024 now. So we're talking about, we're still getting out of COVID. So still people were having like financial difficulties and stuff back then. So I said, well, look, let's do this. I said, I don't want to have, our residents have to spend so much money with you going around saying, this is out of code, tear it up. This is out of, tear it up. Because our residents, I don't want to put that on them, like that financial burden. I said, so we'll do this. Our residents who have been here for so long, these houses who have been here for so long, we'll keep them how they are. The moment that they go to change or adjust anything on their house, they have to fall into the code. So, for example, we don't allow shingles on the roofs, but there are still some houses with shingles on roofs because they've been like that for 35 years. But the moment that they go to repair their roof, they can't put shingles again. They didn't have to fall into the code. So there's a lot of things that you'll see that's out of code, but that's why it's out of code. So if you get a code violation and you're like, but my neighbor down the street, that might be why. And another thing is also, there are a lot of houses that we do issue code violations to, you just might not know it, right? So they might be racking up violations also, you just might not know it. This home right here has been like this, I mean, you know, for at least 13 years since I've been on the council. No, this home has been with those things, with the hedges, yeah, it's been like that, yeah. For about 13 years. It's been like that for about 13 years. Because I've been on the council for a little over 13 years. And I remember always delivering flyers to that home. And I remember they always had hedges out front. But thank you for your comments. Do I have any further comments or questions from the council?
Well, I do have a comment on that one.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to be misunderstood. I do think that having hedges that infringe on a right-of-way are really dangerous. I think in that area, we have a lot. I know that there's one family who has a child who is handicapped, who has to maneuver around those streets, and I empathize with that, and I definitely see an issue with it, which is why historically I have definitely been a big proponent of voting no on any sort of hedge or fence in the front of the property. I understand that this property poses a unique question for us because this is something that you have inherited. However, I do want to make it clear that I think in the planning and zoning meeting, everyone voted yes, but said that those hedges need to remain below a certain height. Was that true?
Correct, 4
And
feet.
What height was that? 4
4
feet.
feet. Mhm.
Yes. So I just want to emphasize that just because, and I don't know how the vote is going to go tonight, but just because you do have an approval, I don't want you to forget about that requirement of those hedges remaining at a reasonable height and being careful to manicure them so that they are not more of an impediment to pedestrians than they already are. And I think what the mayor is saying is true. If there is a desire in the future to change something, that it would have to be brought into compliance with the code as it is now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Vice Mayor.
I have something as well.
Councilperson Winters?
Thank you. So I'd like to take a moment to address some concerns on these hedges in Sherwood Forest. First, I want to thank former Councilman Perella for bringing up this matter to our attention. And I want to talk that we are all about safety and the well-being of our community. Safety is the top priority. We must give it the attention it deserves. However, it is worth noting that there is no documented incidents or accidents involving these hedges. Furthermore, the hedges in question are consistent with the aesthetic of the neighborhood and match those of the nearby properties. In fact, most of the properties around that house all have the exact same hedges, the exact same height, and even the same species of plants. Pulling them out would actually diminish the beauty of the Sherwood Forest area. Now, the visual harmony contributes to the charm and identity of Sherwood Forest, which is something I believe we all value. As we consider this matter, it is important to balance safety, community standards, and the unique character of our village. I encourage us to keep an open mind and focus on solutions that respect these principles while fostering a collaborative approach among neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well said, Councilperson Winters. Appreciate that. Anyone else from the council? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution G3? Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilperson, was that Winters?
Yes.
Yes, Councilperson Winters. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Erba.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
No.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
4-1.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
Next is Resolution G4, you guys. This is 100 Northeast 89th Street. Ms. Hammonds, have there been any adjustments or conditions since the Planning and Zoning Committee?
There have not. This is the application that went before the planning board and was approved.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the council?
No.
Hearing none. Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution G4?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second? Second by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call, please?
Roll call, Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Erbaum.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Next up is Resolution G5. This is 353 Northeast 85th Street. 353 Northeast 85th Street. Ms. Hammonds, have there been any adjustments or any conditions?
There have not. This is the application that came before the planning board and was approved in November.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions or comments from the council?
What's the problem? What? Not comply with section 5-66. Is this a second reading, or is this already what it is?
Ms. Hammonds, where it says does not comply with section 5-66, what does that mean? What's 5-66?
I'm not seeing where that,
In G5, where it says toward the end of the paragraph, it says in the title, it says conversion at 353 Northeast 85th Street as requested by Louis Glickman, which does not comply with section,
I apologize. I believe that's a typo.
What's
which
the
part?
type?
It does comply with the sections. It's just that this is a variance for a garage enclosure, which you need to have a variance if you want to do a garage enclosure. That's the rules, but it will comply with the variance criteria. I apologize. That should not be on the report.
So it
That's a
does
typo.
comply, so we're gonna have to cross over that not for the final upload.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Appreciate that. Anyone else from the council? Councilperson Winters?
I really love what you guys have done with that house. I remember when Don used to live there, and you have made it into a exemplary property that I would love to see all over Sherwood Forest. And I look forward to seeing what you're going to do with it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Winters. Appreciate that. Anyone else from the council?
Ditto.
Ditto. Thank you very much, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Hearing none from the council, is anybody from the audience for 353 Northeast 85th Street?
So moved.
Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution G5?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Winters. Do I have a second? Second by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Madam Clerk, may I see that roll call for G5?
Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Erbaum.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. Okay. Next is Resolution G6. This is 44 Northeast 89th Street. 44 Northeast 89th Street. How you all doing? Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, what'd you say when the kids ran in? You said those are future what? Councilperson Lightfoot Ward said those are future members of the council.
That's exactly right.
There you go. Madam, Ms. Hammonds, has there been any conditions or any adjustments to this? Resolution G6, 44 Northeast.
They're not. They did submit some color elevations. That would be, I think, the only addition that we gave you for this application. But it was essentially the house is the addition that was presented to the planning board, and it was approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from the council?
Yes.
Councilperson Winters?
Diane, Alfred, it was wonderful meeting you the other day. You have a beautiful house and a beautiful family, all three of them. And I can definitely see why you need a bigger house with the growing family. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Winters. Anyone else from the council?
What, I have a question.
Question, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward?
It's an enclosure or a new construction? It says new construction of multifamily residential. Is
It's
that right?
expansion of the back of the house.
Expansion of the backyard.
Yeah. Mhm.
The house being expanded toward the backyard.
Correct, it's part of the house.
Yeah.
It's not a separate dwelling.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah, I went back there doing, when I dropped the sandbags off, I was like back there looking at everything. But appreciate that. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, hearing none. Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve G6?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Madam Clerk, please have roll call.
Roll call, Councilperson Winters,
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward,
Oh, yes.
Councilperson Erba,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Sounds good. Next is Resolution G7. This is the El Portal Launch Little River Site Plan. Have there been any adjustments, Ms. Hammonds, on this since the planning and zoning?
There have not.
Everything's exactly the
It
same?
is exactly what we have presented at the planning board and was approved.
Okay. Do I have any questions or comments from the council?
Yes.
Yes. Councilperson Urban?
Yes. So I've been contacted by some residents, and I do have some issues I would like to have clarified. I'm gonna read just a couple things here real quick, and I'll just say this. This is a huge project, and the idea of rubber stamping this is very concerning. As exciting as it is to have another large project in El Portal from developers who have done a phenomenal job with another property already. Having said that, I just do want to read these very specific concerns regarding our code from a resident, if I may. So, here we go. This property is located within 250 feet of Zone 3, thus limited by code to 4 stories max. Site plans of 8 stories would violate section 24-B.17.Zone 5, parentheses Zine 5, Urban Center of El Portal Village Code. Site plans do not maintain 15% pervious landscaped grass or natural coverage in violation of 24-19B. Large specimen native shortleaf fig trees are planning to be removed in violation of 24-19B. Pedestrian views are not being preserved in violation of section 24-19D. The proposed development is planned to occupy more than 50% of the gross acreage of a mixed-use development as residential. This is in violation of section 24-B.17, Z5 Urban Center. There is a requested variance for that, I acknowledge. All right. So what they're saying here is, let me talk about the trees real quick. Large specimen, native shortleaf fig trees are planning to be removed. 4 of them, okay? So Durham is recommending disapproval of this application since the applicant has not provided information depicting the specimen trees as preserved and has not applied for a tree removal permit to determine if the specimen trees can be reserved. So I would like to start there and just simply address this issue of the fig trees and Durham's approval or disapproval, because this is coming from a resident. Would anybody be able to speak to specifically the fig trees, 4 of them, and Durham? I'll start there.
So
Absolutely.
Ben and I are both prepared to speak on that. I can start
Sure.
quickly. They will be required to get a tree removal permit. That is a requirement throughout the county. And
Are they going to be able to acquire that? Because if they cannot, then these plans change.
They should be fine. The county has requirements to mitigate if you remove trees, and they have calculations already on their landscape plans showing how many trees they're going to be replacing to mitigate at a ratio of 2.1, which is the requirement. And I'll let Ben bring up
Attorney
another
Fernandez,
issue.
before you jump in there, answer these questions while you're answering those questions. The first one is has Durham denied any of your permits?
Absolutely not.
Okay. The second one is that Durham, with this type of situation, how often have they denied these type of permits? And answer that while you answer your question. I would also like to point out that nothing's changed in this application for any of this stuff. So, and let me just say, other places where you would attend for government, they do 3 minutes. I don't know if you can go see Miami Shores, you can go see Biscayne Park, you can go see North Miami. Look at, because they do camera work all over. Even he's shaking his head. 3 minutes. Last meeting, I gave residents like 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And they usually do 3 minutes, and there's usually no back and forth. Usually it's 3 minutes, the resident gets up there, they say their piece, and then we move on. Nothing's changed from the last time. And went back and forth for over 30 minutes last time. So I just want to make sure that we know that Mayor Omar has given a lot of leeway that no other municipality in the state of Florida gives. Attorney Fernandez, would you answer those questions for me, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Ben Fernandez, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, for the record, on behalf of the applicant. Durham routinely provides comments with respect to proposed plans. That doesn't mean, in this case, there was no permit applied for the tree removal yet. So it really, what the comments reflect is their position that a permit application will be required and that a tree removal permit will be required and has to be processed and provide the requisite mitigation, as Ms. Hammonds indicated.
And what is our level of confidence that that permit would be granted, understanding that there would be stipulations?
Very, very strong.
Okay.
4 of those trees are located within the Riverwalk,
Right.
which is something that the city has asked for and is required. So those trees would need to be removed to begin with. The other tree is on the side setback and shared. So
Okay.
yes, we're very confident with respect to that.
Fantastic. All right. That actually leads me into my second point. I know I listed 4 or 5. The second point being the 50% residential, right? Limitation, right? That there's a variance applied for to have more than 50% residential.
As an overabundance, in an overabundance of caution, because really when you read that code provision, it says 50% of the total acreage, which doesn't even make
Okay.
sense entirely.
Okay.
And then there's a limitation that any commercial needs to be on the ground floor. Our
Okay.
ground floor is already comprises some commercial.
We discussed at the last meeting.
Right.
Minimal commercial. And I
Right.
do understand there was a plan for another commercial property in there. However, the plans for a ramp, a boat launch, have been denied by Durham to this point.
The
And so-
management district in
and
that
so
case,
that-
Councilman
So that
Urban.
affected the decision to have that additional space for the kayaks and things like this. So, fair enough. All right, so at that point, I would like to remind the council that our code is still woefully lacking, as evidenced by what you're saying, the ambiguity of 50% of the acreage, right? So, so are we to assume that's ground floor? We can't assume anything, right? So, all right, so that's a challenge for us, because one thing that the village is asking for in a very significant way is commercial properties. And so this is an opportunity to expand our commercial base. And so I believe that's what the direction of the comments from the last meeting were from the residents, in terms of, hey, like, are we going to get any commercial business out of this property that is in Z5, right? So, so that's a very serious concern from the residents, in terms of not just, would there be something that would be fun and interesting for the residents to be able to enjoy and provide money to that property, and in turn have that property provide, an expanded tax base to the village. Okay, so I've said my piece on that, and if anybody else wants to talk about it, fine. Let me move on to the pedestrian views not being preserved in violation of section 24-D. Can anybody speak to that provision or that reality of the fact that people both from Fourth Court, I believe it is, as well as the residents over here on 80, in the hook of the river, there is no views that are preserved. So,
Well, in this case, Councilman Orban, if you read that code provision, it says the views are to be preserved from adjacent properties.
Okay.
Adjacent properties in this case are both
line.
on either side that
Right.
have complete views. We're
Yeah.
not blocking those. And then we have an intervening street, which
Okay.
is Northeast Fourth Place.
right.
So there is no adjacent property to the south. And if there were one, it's our own property, right? It's Cavista
Yeah.
that lines that entire frontage.
To the east.
To the east,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry.
Correct.
And to the south is just another residential.
Another
property.
reservoir that we're not interfering with those views. And there is a setback, of course,
Okay.
from the building, so there is a view from the street.
Okay, all right. And then in terms of, give me half a moment here, I'm cycling through. Okay, and hold on, I gotta go to a different page here real quick. All right, so final point here from resident concerns is Brownfields Redevelopment Act. All right. So at the October 24th Planning and Zoning meeting, in response to comments from the council regarding the developer's public benefits program contribution being low in exchange for 2 stories of bonus height, there was a claim that the launch was allotted 1 story of bonus height through the Brownfields redevelopment program. There does not seem to be any information on this anywhere, and before they were approved for this program, a resident asked publicly during the agenda items proceedings if there were any special concessions given to them, and were told no. So I think what the resident's trying to say there is, can we get just a little bit more clarification on how we achieved the 2 additional stories? It sounds like it was 1 story and then 1 story, but if you could at least
Sure.
speak to that.
Well, and let me just go back, because I think that you referenced it initially, just for the record, some provisions that apply to environmentally sensitive lands, which are the provisions about the 14% surface area. And
Yes.
Though, all of those are simply illogical to apply to this property, because this property has been declared a brownfield. So that is contrary to being an environmentally sensitive
Well,
land.
okay, I'm gonna push back on that a little bit and
Okay.
say that the responsibility of the developer, because they've chosen to buy this property, nobody forced this property upon them. It is now the responsibility of the developer to clean up that brownfield.
Oh, absolutely.
And there would be a
And-
benefit, because the state and everybody else acknowledges that there's a cost that the developer is gonna have to put out to
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
And so in exchange for, hey, thank you for cleaning up this contaminated space, we will allow X, Y, and Z in terms of a benefit. So I will push back on, I personally have an issue with the word logical, because there is no logic. It's only your logic. There's no logic that exists, because anybody using logic can only use what they know, and if they don't know something, they can't apply it to their logic calculation. So I like to say your logic. There's no such thing as either logic or reason, just so everybody is clear about that. Right. And so it is my logic that regardless of what has to be achieved to be able to start developing that property, if there's a 15% requirement, then there's a 15% requirement after it's done. I'll just tell you, this is not my biggest issue. We're talking about 1% difference here. We're at 14% and it's 15%. And I know one of the issues from some of the residents is, we need pervious structure. It sounds like the boardwalk that they're going to build will be pervious. It does sound like that has been taken into account. I'm personally satisfied with that. And I think there's other issues here the questions that I would want to ask before I start hammering on the 1% difference of where we're at on that one. So,
Well, I would just say for the
yeah.
record, and not to be argumentative,
Yeah.
but the provision that's been referenced in the neighbors or the residents' arguments is a provision that applies to environmentally sensitive areas, and there is no definition for that in your comprehensive plan or your form-based code. So it's impossible to apply that to this property, first, and secondarily, it is a brownfield. So clearly, it's something that needs to be cleaned up, as you mentioned. It is not an environmentally sensitive area. We're bringing it back to an acceptable condition.
the Little River is always and forever going to be an environmentally sensitive area. So there's never not going to be an environmentally sensitive area. If people understood what was in the water already, so
our intent is to improve it.
Yeah, and with what's happening in Tallahassee, I expect that the Everglades will be dead in about 7 years, and so that is unfortunate because we have the cleanest water here in Miami-Dade County of anybody anywhere in North America, and that is all coming to an end within the next decade because of what's happening out of Tallahassee. So unbelievably unfortunate. No human civilization, and if we survive 1 million years, we will not be able to clean as much water as the Everglades does every single day without our assistance. And so, so in all of that, okay, I'm satisfied with your optimism for the Durham permits. I'm satisfied with the 14%. Fine. I still do. I do not, we're going to be surrounded by high rises. We're going to be surrounded by high rises. There's going to be plenty of enormously large buildings surrounding this village. And so if we're going to build a building this large right on the water, then I'm concerned with having no commercial really aspect to it. That's a major loss for the village in terms of opportunity for commercial development. It's extremely concerning, to be perfectly honest. And then in addition to that, where my original question was, how did we arrive at the 2 additional stories?
Well, and I will get to that, but let me just say that we comply with the code in the sense that we have the requisite spacing, which I think was your first comment, from any single-family area, which is a 250-foot spacing requirement. That's what your code requires, is spacing from the building. And if you look at your code, it falls under the building. It's not from the property. So what has been presented is incorrect in that the measurement is not taken from the property. It's taken from the proposed building.
Okay.
Or position.
Sure.
The public benefit contribution was discussed and negotiated essentially based on the fact that this is a smaller project than Cavista was, and so the contribution is less.
For this resident who has a specific concern that they're not finding evidence that the first allotment had anything to do with the Brownfields redevelopment program, where could they go to find that information that is in fact part of the calculus of the 2 additional stories? Is there anywhere that they would be able to?
It's in the code, it's clearly listed in public benefits details of the code. You can find it in probably.
Yeah, that is something that can be considered, just like a civic space contribution or additional public space or a park. Those are all things that can be accepted in exchange for additional floor area.
And then once we realized that the boat ramp would not be approved by Durham, was there any consideration given to, well, what could we as a business bring into that space that was originally conceived of for?
I got it right here. It's section 24B21.
So I'm A.R. Barrington. I'm one of the owners of the property in question for the lodge today. Councilman, so we had obviously called this launch, assuming we were going to have a project that would enable our residents to engage the waterfront.
Yeah.
It was South Florida Water Management District
Oh,
was
forgive me.
vehemently
Forgive me.
opposed
Okay,
to providing any access to
Okay.
getting into the
Yeah,
river.
forgive me for misrepresenting that as
Yeah.
Durham. Okay.
So with that, we went and revised our permit, which we learned in applying for a separate permit for the seawall remediation only, right? That's running in parallel, that goes through Army Corps of Engineers, South Florida Water Management, before it ever gets to El Portal. So that process has been going, we have those approvals, but it was in that comment back and forth that any kind of ramp or
Non-negotiable.
boat launch, and there was never gonna be any motorcraft, this was
Right.
just for any kayaks or stand-up paddleboard type.
Yeah.
That was not allowed, so that was gone. We always have proposed the same total amount of square footage for commercial space in this
Okay.
project. That didn't trigger any revision to the building plan itself.
Okay.
It was just, I mean, we had some thoughts that there would be an opportunity to do some freestanding, like you've seen those paddleboard rental
Right.
kiosks
Yeah.
that would, that was obviously something we were considering, but that would go away with
Okay.
no ability to offer any access to the water. But in terms of square footage of the commercial space, that's stayed the same throughout our submittals to you.
Will there, so the commercial space that is planned for in the plans, please, if you would, just illustrate a little bit of what that space looks like in terms of what type of business we envision being there, or?
Yeah, so, that's difficult. Right now, you might imagine, that's not a very desirable retail location the way it is. I mean, we're kind of looking forward to the little farm developing and having Fourth Place be kind of entry into the little farm. And now there would be foot traffic and vehicle traffic that would make that a more appealing
Fair enough.
retail space.
Fair enough. In the future, would you picture that there would be anything at the launch property where residents of El Portal, or just public in general, would be able to go and have even just to sit
Absolutely,
on?
100%. I mean, one
Okay.
of those things we were considering is a restaurant. I mean, some of the original renderings have just kind of generic restaurant on there.
Okay.
You can look in the back, there's that covered patio space with proposed seating. So that was the whole initial thought, that this
Okay.
was gonna be kind of some waterfrontage opportunity that the public could come and enjoy.
Okay.
Throwing a little bit of a curveball from the South Florida Water Management District, but the commercial space remains, and
So then conceivably with if the little farm would finally be developed, then it would be more viable to include some type of business model that would be more open to the public as opposed to just limited to whoever would be living in that building. Is that right?
for sure. I mean, we are very much aligned with
Okay.
kind of increasing the value of that property.
Yeah.
And if it were a business partnership, that whether it be a restaurant or a retail business that could, attract a customer base and be
Yeah.
a vibrant space for the public to come and enjoy, we very much would welcome that,
Okay.
of course.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
I'd like to say something.
Councilperson Winters.
Thank you, sir. So I would like to first address the concerns raised about the proposed development, including the potential impact of fig trees and the role of the Department of Environmental Resource Management, DERM, in this matter. First, I want to acknowledge the residents' points. It is vital that we carefully consider the environmental impacts of any project, especially in our community where we love our trees and where natural beauty and sustainable growth go hand in hand. However, we must recognize the broader vision of the commitments we have made to the village. This proposed development aligns with the goals laid in our comprehensive plan adopted a decade ago at the Sherrod, which envisioned a thriving commercial district to enhance our community's vibrancy and economic resilience. The specific property in question, located at the edge of the 17-acre site and acting as the offshoot from the river, represents a critical opportunity to move that vision forward. While concerns about the fig tree and vegetation are valid, assuming outright denial from DERM due to hypothetical issues could set a precedent that jeopardizes our ability to develop other projects in the future. For example, a proposed boat ramp on the same offshoot of the river, was not approved by the South Florida Water Management District, which demonstrates that environmental considerations are already thoroughly evaluated. However, such decisions should not discourage us from pursuing responsible development opportunities that align with our community goals. It is also important to note that this property, like the broader 17-acre site, is classified as a brownfield. This classification will require significant remediation efforts, including the removal of old septic tanks as part of the construction process. The necessary measures further highlight the potential to transform this underutilized site into the cornerstone of our community. But as we transform it from a brownfield to a vibrant metropolis, we're going to have to cut down trees, and there'll probably be fig trees over some of these septic tanks. And Durham's going to have to allow us to remove them in order to allow all of the development to happen. So this development represents a significant opportunity for our village. By working collaboratively with Durham, the South Florida Water Management District, the developers, our concerned residents, I'm confident that we can find a solution that respects both our environmental values and our needs for growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Winters. Anyone else from the council? Yes. Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
I smell a rat. It's not working with me. I'm glad I didn't hear it before, but I heard enough of it to know that you're doing something that's not going to help this village. You're talking to somebody who had to make sure we stopped this kind of stuff years ago so that it would not interrupt what we are in terms of a village. They've already read 3 things, major things, that would always be a problem in El Portal. I can't tell you that I can go with this one. This is just not your fancy words and all that stuff. I can see this village. I can see this project. And it's not making it better for the village, it's making it worse. A multi-family residential urban center zone, a lot of words, but it does not speak to the character of this village. It speaks to trying to change this village. Next thing I know, I got 5 of y'all coming, doing the same thing. It's not the same for this village. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else from the council?
Just a really quick comment, and I
Vice
think it
Mayor Martin.
echoes the sentiments that I expressed before. I think we do have to get very clear on what the vision is. If the vision is what Councilman Winters just referenced, which was a charrette that said that we did want to expand our commercial offerings, and we wanted this vibrant sector back there, and all of those things, if that is still the vision, we cannot make it impossibly difficult to come into El Portal and execute on that vision. So for me, I can take guidance from the Cavista, and I can say that I think that that was a well-executed and well-received project. And this one seems to be of the same ilk. I also think that that question mark we have about commercial that I heard Councilman Erbaum speaking to, it's a bit of the chicken and the egg. Like, we have to show that there is a space where a commercial project can thrive, and that will attract other commercial endeavors to want to take the same chance on the area and on El Portal. So I think if we get clear on our vision, then maybe it will make it easier for us to assess projects like this. But in my opinion, I think it's impossible to think that El Portal will remain the same as it was 10, 15, 20 years from now. We have to decide how we're willing to change and the best partner in that change for us to really grow. We have to decide what the direction is, who the partner is, and understand that it will not look the same. And there are certain elements that we can control, but other elements that we just have to see how it evolves. As far as that public benefits contribution, I would like to know who negotiated that number. So who did you guys negotiate the number with?
With Mayor Nickerson and Madam Manager.
Okay. Good to know. the comments that I'm hearing about that public benefits number being a little low, I don't think that that's out of this world. I do think that that number does seem a little light to me, but maybe someone could give me some guidance on the appropriateness of it.
So we'll get to the public benefits. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Martin. We'll get to the public benefits in a second. Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, this property, where in El Portal is it going to be located? Yeah, I said, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, this property that's going to take away all the character of El Portal, where in El Portal is it going to be located?
My comments are based on not hearing what you all have already said. My comments are based on what they have just said tonight. It does not sound like this multifamily, let's get the wording right. The site plan for a new construction of multifamily residential at these 4 places in Zone 5. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not trying to recreate the world, or El Portal. I'm trying to make sure that we don't come up with a situation that has not, you got all the contaminations, you got other stuff that's going on. Nothing else has been said except we want this multifamily residential to go up in the El Portal's area, the launch of the Little River site plan. And I'm saying I don't agree. Nobody has to agree with me. I just don't agree. It does not seem to match our village. That's all I'm saying. This is not hard.
Do you know where it's going to be located, where it's going on?
It says where it's going to be located.
Where is it going to be located?
All 4, that 1/4 place in Zone 5.
Do you know where that is?
Of course, come on, Mayor. We in the same city. We live in the same place.
But where is that located?
It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me, are we doing it the way it keeps the value of this village, not turning it into something else, and then another company comes and another company comes.
So when we're talking about the character of El Portal, I could see if it was going on Northeast 2nd. I could see if it was going on North Miami Avenue. Some people here don't even know where it's going to be located. As a matter of fact, you have individuals that don't even know that the Cavista is El Portal. That's how far we've separated residential El Portal from the business zone of El Portal on 83rd. You have residents that don't even know that's El Portal. You have residents that don't even know those are El Portal residents over there. They have no clue. That's how far we've separated to keep the residential aspect of El Portal, the residential aspect of El Portal, to when you're walking on 88th Street or 89th Street. You don't even think about it over there. How long has the Cavista been up?
Since April.
You don't even think about it on a daily basis. So it just goes to show you that when we're talking about the character of El Portal and the serenity of El Portal and the tranquility that we're all talking about as residents of El Portal, we've had since April a firsthand example. We don't have to guess. Who here, when I'm out there doing flyer packets and passing out flyer packets, I have had not one resident come out of their house and say, man, Mayor, that Cavista, every day I get up, It's just ruining my day. Man, Mayor. Not one. I haven't had one. Man, Mayor. I don't know how y'all let that Cavista get up, that big building. Phew. Giving me nightmares. So if we're curious about what affects the character of El Portal, we've had an example since when? Since April? Since April. Any other questions or comments for this? Before we get here, let's read this into the record, Mr. Attorney.
Resolution G7, a resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, granting site plan approval for new construction of multifamily residential at 8300, 8316, 8356, and 8358 Northeast 4th Place in Zone 5, Urban Center Zone in the Village of El Portal. An application by The Launch at Little River LLC, providing for findings, providing for conditions, providing for appeal, providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Should have been reading the entire time. We'll go back and fix that. Any other questions or comments from the council?
I just wanted to ask them a few quick questions. I've already looked over a lot of these notes, and I probably know the answers, but I just want to hear from you guys. Compared to the beautiful building that you built in April, what is the size comparison to the new one?
So in terms of number of units, it's about half.
So it's about half the size of the one that the El Portal Council has already approved in right next door. And are you actually able to, with code, make the building bigger but decided not to?
I believe the answer is no.
Not bigger in terms of height or mass.
Width?
We
I think
certainly
the
have extra
setbacks-
room on the side
yeah.
setbacks. I mean, we could shift, but yes, in terms of density of number of units, no, that's the max, and height, that's the max.
And the green space that you're allowing for the residents, it's going to be open access all the time, or is there going to be a gate blocking off the river?
That is to be determined. You know, we're going to have to kind of balance. I think probably envisioning a 24-hour access is probably not a realistic thing, but probably some, you know, business hours access to a commercial space that would be then, you know, a way to access the water frontage, yes.
All right. And of course, you're going to have a commercial property. Have you had any fun ideas that you want to put down there?
Well, I mean, the issue is, I mean, we would just make this available for lease for a tenant, right? So we're not in the business of kind of operating any type of store or restaurant space. That isn't, we don't have the management skills to do that. So, you know, we would be a little bit market dependent on, you know, opening it up and seeing, you know, what type of business operators would be interested in leasing that space from us.
Understood. And lastly, you're obviously going to need parking there, and you've already designed a lot for that to happen. Will any of the people at this building be able to use parking at your other building?
I don't believe we had planned that. No, I think all the parking that we are required to have for our tenants in this building will be contained in the building.
Okay, good.
If you're thinking of, like, if this is some kind of a restaurant in the commercial space that, you know, how would customers come and stay and park? Yeah, we do have more parking than is required at Cavista. So, I mean, we have the opportunity to, you know, kind of allow valet services or something like that to use parking at Cavista, but we do not have any plans to kind of formally link parking across properties.
Okay.
Here, if I could just
Yeah.
say, Mr. Winters, this is a very urban area, and it's very walkable. And I think the expectation is that this will develop as well as the city of Miami side across the street. So there's the possibility of some adaptive reuse in the future. There's like a multi-room space on the ground floor that could be utilized in some open areas. I mean, I think there's the ability for opportunities in the future to adapt as the area changes.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else from the council? All right, we'll answer Vice Mayor Martin's question. Ken, can you come up here real quick also? Okay, so when we did, and we had them chime in a little bit, but we're gonna make this really straightforward and simple. So the individuals from the past of El Portal were not forward thinking. So they didn't put anything in El Portal when they didn't anticipate any business development. Therefore, they didn't have anything like impact fees. But when a business goes up, you have impact, right? There's an impact to your law enforcement. There's an impact to the streets. There's an impact to the overall, of the village. So there's an impact, but we don't have impact fees. So to grab our environmental aspect of El Portal and to grab our aspect of we don't have impact fees, we came up with development agreements, okay? So those who love environmentalism should love development agreement, because what it does is, the way we get around it, what we say is, okay, since you're putting up a building in El Portal, for a certain amount of additional concrete that you put in El Portal, you have to offset it by helping us out with either green space or something like that. The thing of it is that El Portal is only but so large. So it's not like we have a bunch of open parks that are for purchase, or open lots with no home that are for purchase, right? So since we don't, to offset that, we have development agreement that would come in the form of money, okay? Because of the development that's going up, all right? For the impacts and things that we might feel, okay? Now, this is gonna be simple to explain, because as a few people have said already, and asked the question and received the answer of, this property is not as large as the Cavista property. It's not as large. The one that's up now is larger. Therefore, we're not going to get as much in the development agreement. Ken, when you and I and all of us were going back and forth about development agreement, logically, when we formulated it out, it was much less than what it is now, correct? You came in much.
Yeah, of course.
You came in much less.
Yes.
It was much less. And the reason why it came up was because I started to look at more of the footage, and I was able to use a calculation on footage to raise it up a little.
Correct.
Right? But if we went strictly by the formula of the Cavista, the initial development of the initial building, it would have been under what you suggested, because under that formula, that's what it would have been. So it would have been even less under the original formula that nobody ever had a problem with. The development agreement that the Cavista had with it, that nobody's ever discussed, if you use that same formula, it would have been less. So I got more than what the first building actually got by using a different formula. I got more. So for everybody saying it seems light, you would have got from the same formula from the first one, you would have got less from the original formula. Go ahead, Madam Manager.
I just want to also echo that. We had a very long meeting, and Ken and I almost got into a fight because I was the last holdout in terms of just getting those funds. I'm actually the one who's been charged with redeveloping, redesigning, renovating the parks and the green space, and I knew what these parks renovations cost. So I really wanted more. I thought I pushed and I pushed, but we really were able to get this level because it was significantly less if we use the formula. And again, it only can be utilized for green space. I mean, when we push for other impacts. But understand, we aren't able to collect impact fees because we don't provide utilities. And because of that, this is our only option. So the push was there. I mean, we came to an agreement. Is it as high as we like? No. Is it as low as they'd like? No. But we came to a mutual agreement. So it was a difficult discussion. We went back and forth. Our attorney was involved in the initial back and forth till that, kind of fell apart. And then, we were the ones who showed for the meeting and were able to reach this understanding. But this is where we landed.
Thank you for the explanation on that. I think they say that that's how you know you have a good agreement, right? When everybody's not quite happy. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but even the explanation, just in knowing what was considered and that there was kind of this pushback on the number, I think that illuminates it for myself for sure, and I think some members of the audience. I just want us to consider that maybe, I know that the Barrington brothers had their formula. Maybe we can talk collectively as a body or individually. You can speak with us individually and kind of figure out whether or not their formula is the formula that we want to use. Because my argument on that would probably be that as you build, resources become less available, right? And is the other party going to be more amenable to going higher on those fees? Maybe, it's a conversation, but it's good to know that you guys engaged in that hard battle of kind of getting to this number. The number is something that you negotiated and it's what's in front of us. I am generally happy with the Cavista. I think the project that you're proposing in the launch, the design of it, the fact that it is very different from the Cavista, I think it's cool. I think you've been a good partner thus far with the village. And if I were a betting person, I would want to make a bet on someone who's already proven that they are willing to take feedback from the community and implement that and give us a quality product. And I also think something that the mayor said is very, very important for us to hone in on. This sector was built for this type of activity. So when we have someone in front of us willing to give us exactly what we said we asked for, I would caution us not to turn away from that because you never know what you might get next. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Martin. Anyone else on the council?
Mayor, as you continue to talk, my absences have not, they're just coming to me. What my colleague just said makes a whole lot more sense. All I'm trying to do, now I'm going to switch myself. All I'm trying to do is make sure that we don't turn into something that we cannot handle. That doggone curve out there is a mess during the week. That whole string that tries to get over here on Biscayne Boulevard is a mess in the morning. That's the stuff that I'm looking at. What's happening to my village? That's all. But listening to my colleagues, obviously I'm coming in when the movie already about to go into a commercial. So I can see where you're trying to go. But what I'm seeing with all this development is a bunch of vehicles coming through El Portal, and El Portal's population can't even maneuver because now it's a shortcut because of what the development looks like. But with my colleagues giving me another way of looking at it, just don't let me down. Don't do it.
Appreciate it.
We'll know.
You'll know. Well, I would just like to comment, you mentioned you smell a rat. We are not rats. I promise.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Anybody else from the council? Hearing none, let's open it up to the audience. I know you wanted to speak, and then I'll have you. I'll have her first, and I'll have you come up. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go over there, and you can. Oh, you can come here. Yeah, and say your name and address for the record.
Diana Molinares Vaca, 44 Northeast 89th Street. I just, so interesting, this conversation. And I can see both points. My question is about those impact fees, right? Is it one-time payment? Is that what it happened? I just, out of ignorance, just for education. Is there any way that when you guys are reconsidering the formula, it's something that, I don't know if this is even allowed, that like it gives you a kind of like support later on too? Because I think we have impact fees from like the construction itself and then impact fees for what ma'am, you're saying that long-term, what are the impacts? So I'm just wondering if there is any way that maybe not for this one, but for the next one, we can add something that we can get more for the community for like the future.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And let me just say that I'll just leave it there. Quickly, I was just gonna say, let me just say, come on, Scott. Let me just say that when I was asking, for where this is located, so this is located over there, across the river, so I just don't see impact through residential El Portal over there. You know what I mean? Like, unless somebody is coming from I-95, but even then they would go down probably 79th and then turn left and then turn on 83rd. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I try to put it as far away from residential El Portal as possible, you guys. So you guys don't feel the brunt of it.
Well, I'll just say one other just point to mention. There is a second and significant revenue opportunity for the village of El Portal, and that comes with the permit fees. So
absolutely.
Once we get through site plan approval, then we move to actually creating a set of construction documents that we then submit for permit. The permit fees for this project will be somewhere in the order of probably $250,000 to $400,000. There'll be a significant amount of money.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Thank you very much. Ms. Cooper?
Pleasure to be here. I am not sure if some of the same faces from previous times, but I want to start by thanking the developers as well, and reiterate, as I mentioned last time, I am certainly not personally, and I don't think any of the other neighbors that have been involved in communications against development at all. Actually, quite the contrary. I personally very much want development. It's the type of development that we're looking for. To the points that were made regarding that this is exactly what we've been wanting, that this was in the charrette from 10 years ago. Well, first of all, understood that might have changed in the last 10 years with everything that has evolved. In addition to that, it's not what we are that is, because it is circumvent or they're asking for a variance on one of the core elements of what that zone was supposed to be, being mixed use, bringing benefits to the community, such as restaurants, retail, shops, etc. Now, this location is in a very important and significant area. We do not have a lot of riverfront property in this village. I actually recently have bought a property on the river, which, in addition to several of my neighbors, was I was able to basically get because of the fact that the previous owner cared a lot about the environment and what was going to happen on the banks of the Little River, knowing that this critical habitat and trees and everything that is extremely important on it was going to be preserved. Since that time, I've had several residents ask me personally if they can utilize my property to go and take a walk and check out the river, go down to the river. I said, sure, because of course, I want that type of community. At the same time, I don't think that should be, I think that there should be more area that is actually provided to the public in this regard. Now, it's unfortunately, for the developers, it's not the type of situation where it's okay, well, this is, your property and you can do whatever you want with it. We have the codes in the village, and they are requesting variances to, or at least some of which haven't even been addressed, but those variances are, requesting to not go in that direction. So just to finish that thought, the mixed use aspect of this, I think, is integral, especially with Little Farm being developed. and how that kind of interplays into the greater area. If you look at that code and how these mixed-use zones are defined, they are actually talking about the integration of how these areas interact with one another, with a vibrant, bustling area. We've already, as pointed out, had one building that was not mixed use, and that was primarily residential, and that is primarily residential, if not only residential. Now we're going to be making a second exception for a second building to be done with just more residents. So, and when are we going to execute on the vision that this was all for? I don't believe that we can't clean up that area and we can't begin to offer what we want to offer in terms of restaurants and retail and so on and so forth, commercial, with that the building needs to be 8 stories high with special exceptions and variances in order to get that. And I think that the community and the village together, I mean, there's a lot of initiatives involved in cleaning that up, and we can all do that together with doing something that aligns very much with our with our goals and everything. Now, I also just wanted to mention that potentially a lower density project would actually be a value add to the developers. And I just wanted to put this forward to think about by going back to the drawing board and creating a different prototype with a lower height building with fewer larger units per floor that could be marketed as environmentally sensitive, adjacent to wildlife and nature. They could charge more and you guys would be heroes of the village. And maintain what's important and align with the core values of the village. And still, I believe, be equally as profitable and achieve your financial goals. I think there's an opportunity to do something different, which can be a selling point to the tenants, and that high densities not always equate to more income. And there's other ways to generate that through restaurants, through commercial, et cetera. That is supposed to be what's going on here. I also, just bringing it back to some of the comments that were made, Mr. Mayor, responding directly to your comments, I am, to be honest, a little offended. And I think some of the other residents are here as well. You made a comment that nobody's been affected by the Cavista. And I think that that's completely inaccurate. And I believe that the Cavista is, I have no problem with the Cavista personally. I think to say that it has not impacted anybody is an opinion, to say the least. I also believe that the way in which you mentioned that you spent a half an hour with us last time discussing this, while I understand that this is the forum and the process and everything, I do want to point out that I'm at pretty much every council meeting. We spend a lot of time going back and forth and giving a lot of people the time of day, thankfully, and thank you for that. But for relatively small issues, single family hedges, for example, this is an 8-story building that is going up in a environmentally sensitive area. And I think to have that conversation was, completely understandable, especially considering the fact that the public has not been provided with necessarily the proper information regarding this. I had to request the site plan from the Corradino group. It was on the October 17th meeting. And anyway, to follow that up, I do appreciate the time. I also hope that you recognize that this is a very important thing that is being done.
All right. Are you done with me or?
With you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let me just jump in real quick.
Yeah.
All right, my brother, I appreciate it. All right, so the first thing is when we're talking about hedges and things like that, the reason why the people are up there is because they're the primary individuals whose hedges it is. So when we go back and forth about site plans, it's because those are the individuals who are the owners of the site for the site plan. So they're up there going back and forth for a long time. You never see an audience member come up and go back and forth about a person's garage enclosure or hedges in the front. It's always us going back and forth with the individual whose home is the individual we're talking about. So that's the difference. So I'm just saying. So that's a huge difference. So what you're saying is, and what I was pointing out, which I love you, my brother. What I was pointing out is that what you're doing is good in welfare, which is an audience member coming up to speak about an agenda item. And everywhere you go, they put the timer on for 3 minutes, and you have 3 minutes to speak. It doesn't matter. Go to Miami Shores. I was just at a meeting where they were having a big discussion about that gas station that's right there on Biscayne. Everybody got, and what they do is what we used to do. When I got on the council 13 years ago, when I got on as a council member, the first initiative I passed, I'll never forget it. The first initiative I passed was the first good and welfare, and you can speak on every item. Because when I came onto the council, the only thing that existed was the last good and welfare. And I was like, but we're done voting by that time. So then why would it matter if somebody comes up and says their opinion? We're done voting at that time. And then I hadn't put in the top good and welfare. And then like 2 months later, I was like, well, all right, we have the top good and welfare, but what if the people need to hear us talk about it first? So then I came up with, okay, you not only have the top good and welfare, the bottom good and welfare, but now you can talk at every additional item. Nobody else does that. I implore you, I go to all the meetings because I have a Connecting the County initiative. I go to Sunny Isles Beach. Look at my mayor's report and see how many meetings I go to a month. Aventura, Sunny Isles Beach, Miami Beach, Coral Gables, Homestead, Florida City. They let you come and talk for good and welfare 3 minutes. Doesn't matter what they're doing, new site plan, new development. Like I said, Miami Shores was just doing the gas station cleanup. People were heated about that gas station, the abandoned gas station right there, right off of what's that, Biscayne and what's that, 105 or something like that. They're heated about that gas station. They got it 1 by 1, 3 minutes, click. They yelled at the council. You guys should go to a county meeting. People get up there, they yell at the council, next. Yell at the council, next. Yell at the commission, next. After it's over, they're like, okay, do I have a motion to approve? They don't even address what the people are talking about. So that's the only reason why I say it is a lot different. The last thing that I'll say is the second, which is the first thing that you addressed, which is I didn't say that everybody was in agreement with Kavita. What I said was, specifically what I said was when I'm out talking to residents, putting flyers on doors and things like that, I have not had one resident, not one, including you, not one. You've been talking about the launch. I haven't had one resident, including you, say, man, that Cavista building, terrible. Not one resident even mentions the Cavista. I'm telling you, most people don't even think about it. And that's on purpose because I put it away from the residential areas of El Portal so you guys can still maintain the tranquility and serenity of El Portal, and I have them over there. That's why people don't mention it. They don't even think about it. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No problem. So I think that that's a personal opinion. I think that the people who do live in that area, that's...
What I'm saying is not an opinion. What I'm saying is nobody has come up to me and said anything.
Understood. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say is that I think that there are people, including myself, including my neighbors. Yes, I haven't complained about it. I was not I was not around during that time looking at this stuff. Now, thankfully, I believe that at least the village, if people do care, have somebody and other people who are more engaged in it. There are a lot of new residents and, you know, a new sort of era, I think, in El Portal's future. Having said that, just to kind of back up from that for a second, sorry.
I was just going to ask you. I was going to ask you. I agree. I understand what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. There might be people that might have a problem with it. There might be people that, and you know, like you said, now you're here for this. My question to you would be this though: why haven't you complained about the Cavista that's already been up? That's my question to you.
There's nothing to do about it now. We're not going to tear a building down, right? I mean, I think that we're going to try to prevent not prevent, but try to be watching and involved in what's going on in the future. Having said that, there certainly, I mean, it's if you want to come and check it out, I mean, in our backyards on Northeast 4th Avenue Road, which, you know, while it might not affect everybody in the village, I think that should still be very important that it affects some of our residents. Yes, there is a train track in the middle, but that doesn't really change much. I mean, that's not that big of an area. It's, you know, 50 feet or whatnot. We have an 8-story building essentially that has gone up in our backyard, you know, right beyond, seemingly very close to our backyards, that have light pollution, that have noise pollution, et cetera. Now, again, I'm not opposed to the Cavista. My specific concerns with this project are not so much noise, light related. Some of my other neighbors might have that. My personal concerns are much more environmentally related. So if I could just kind of move on from that, I would like to just say that I very much appreciate the time that has been given here, and I hope that you know, it's not a waste for anybody here. Having said that, I do want to mention that I have been up here, I guess, 3 times now in reference to this specific project. The first time I was told to look up the Live Local Act, which I did. And it did not confirm the statements that were made, and I actually found the information and through speaking to counsel quite the contrary. Nevertheless, that seems like it's kind of irrelevant because of the fact that was the focal point of the conversation, because I was led to believe that that was what they were potentially going to do, or sort of you know, made as an argument that they could do anything they want, and therefore we should be happy with what they're doing. And the Live Local Act, I think, is irrelevant because they are not doing that. As mentioned, that would be focused on affordable housing, which they are not doing, and the village is not doing. So that is irrelevant, and that is what we spent a lot of time talking about the previous times. Since then, I have brought up these environmentally sensitive areas and other the residential, single-family residential property being within 250 feet of this property, and again today, it seems that those very important elements are being taken at face value for the responses from the developers team. And I don't believe that the council and the residents should take these things at face value, because already I've heard several false things said tonight. The first of which that I want to address is that it was said that the environmentally sensitive area, beyond the comment that it was illogical, which I think is completely absurd, but beyond that there is no place in the code where that exists. And that is just completely false. I mean, it's section 24B that has this, 2419 that has this code. So
Where's the
seem-
environmentally sensitive area? Tell me where that's defined. You're assuming.
it says
but
the
where is the-
banks of the Little River east of
No,
the
it doesn't.
FEC Railroad.
Show me, I have it right here.
So are
it
you
doesn't
going
say
to
that.
deny that it is an
100%.
environmentally sensitive area?
In fact, your coastal
and-
resource
and-
element
okay.
states that within 150 feet, there is no wildlife or any, because of the urban character, to be preserved. That's in your
Excuse me,
coastal
I
element.
have
Happy to
photos
share
and
with you.
videos from yesterday of being in a canoe on the Little River that show an incredible amount of wildlife in those trees that are planning to be removed. Several species of birds, dragonflies that are food for the birds that have habitat there. And
I'm going to quote from
other-
the coastal element of the village's comprehensive plan. Natural habitat and vegetative communities. The forces of urban development have displaced almost all the natural habitat and vegetative communities, including the mangrove and wetland areas abutting the canal. The pine palmetto forests, which were once the dominant type of vegetation in this area, have now largely disappeared. That's from the coastal element.
All the more reason to protect it.
Well,
What's
and
left?
then the natural resources provision of your comprehensive plan, which is in your coastal element as well, states that the coastal zone has about 150 feet of frontage on the Little River Canal, which means that there are no significant wildlife or vegetative communities, particularly given its urban setting. The county plan shows it as barren to dredging. So, I mean, the recognition, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that there aren't animals and vegetation that grow on those lands. I'm just saying that they're not environmentally sensitive lands to be protected. In fact, the history shows just the opposite. The village adopted a resolution declaring this a brownfield less than a year ago. When you bought your property, this property was already zoned for urban development. You could have looked into the code at that point. Cavista should have been an alarm for you. You got notice of that application when that project was developed, if you lived in the area at the time.
It did not.
And everyone got notice around this project for this hearing and for the lower planning and zoning board hearing. And there's no one here to complain about the Cavista. I've only heard good things about it. But what really fundamentally gets me about your comments, and with all due respect, is that I've never heard a neighbor come out and complain that they want more commercial development near their property. Typically, it's the opposite. Commercial development facing the water encounters all kinds of opposition from neighborhood residents, given the propensity for additional noise, late night activity, drinking. It's something that's viewed as being less compatible with exclusively, especially low-density residential areas. So that's what's surprising. And then your comment about that the project could be smaller and more beneficial to the community. Perhaps for you as a nearby resident, that would be true. But clearly the public benefit provided for a smaller project would be considerably less and less beneficial to the community as a whole. So I think this is more about your concerns than the village's concerns, because you're the only one here and no one else is here. And the ability to seek additional floor area is not a variance. Our variances have nothing to do with the scale of the building. It's an exception and a development agreement that grants us the additional height that we're requesting. And that, as Manager Alou correctly pointed out and has worked so hard with us on, that is what brings the public benefit to the village, is the ability to seek those 2 additional stories, which have been deemed to be compatible with the nearest residential area because you have a 250-foot distance requirement from the nearest residential. You wouldn't be able to do it in some other parts, for instance, of the Little Farm area that are within 250 feet of single family. But in this case, that's just not the case. It doesn't apply.
Okay, so the first thing that I want to mention is that the idea that this that the Brownfields Redevelopment Act and the use of that, that's going to happen and should happen no matter what type of development goes in there, whether it's mixed use, whether it's 4 stories, or whether it's in this case 8. I very much see the value in that. I don't think that necessarily means that it has to be this exact iteration of this development. Having said that, also on the brownfields, with respect to what was asked earlier that I did not think that there was a response to directly was that there was a statement made previously that there was an extra floor allocated for the Brownfields Redevelopment Act, and that the public benefits was a separate thing that there was a separate floor for. So as I guess Arthur called out during the meeting, during when you were saying that it's in the code, he was referring to the public benefits program code. Was that question was not directly, I don't think, responded to as to whether or not there was, that is true that there was an extra floor given for the brownfields and then an extra floor for the public benefits, or if it was both for the public benefits and that was false information about the brownfields.
The brownfields is the brownfields. The public benefit, the additional stories were derived through the public benefit program.
Correct.
In your form-based code.
Okay, so the comment that was made previously was false. There was no.
I'm saying it is
additional
false. I think
floor
that there's obviously
given for the
consideration given to the
brownfields.
entire project. It's an exception. You know,
But it was
all,
used
for
as
instance,
an
all of your
argument,
comments about
but it was
trees
used
and
as
so
an-
forth,
okay.
an exception is a conditional use permit. The code anticipates the fact that this use is permissible within this area and can be subject to conditions. To Councilman Urban's point, we still need to go through a process to obtain all of our tree permits. That is a condition of the exception.
But this was directly responded to in reference to the question of the amount, the dollar amount of the contribution. That
And
was
what is your
being-
point about that?
The point is that there was a statement made that the brownfields was the reason why they already had one level, and that the second level was only one level that $700,000+ was for. When that, from what you're saying, is
Yeah,
not
I mean, maybe there
correct,
should be,
and
you know.
and that therefore the council people were misled to make that decision, that they were misled that amount was only for one floor, and that is not accurate. But anyway, moving on from that, I guess I would like to bring this back to just another point about the environmentally sensitive area. Pelican Harbor, directly across the river, is maintaining all of and working with the city of Miami and with South Florida Water Management. They're maintaining all of the native vegetation on the banks of the river, realizing the importance of it.
My firm represented Pelican Harbor and obtained that approval. I think I know a lot about it. That doesn't make it an environmentally sensitive land. That happens to be a habitat where they, bring birds to recuperate.
Are you an environmentally are you somebody who's studied this and
I'm telling
and
you,
able to
I'm telling you, it was our
speak?
firm's client. We
haven't
obtained
had
the
Little
approvals.
River Conservancy. We haven't had that, I guess, comments from them. We have not had comments from people who really understand the sometimes 100 manatees that are in the river at any given time. Hence why Durham disapprove. There was part of the reason.
Just answering your question about the Pelican Harbor application. That's all. I don't know
All right.
what you meant
So
by
let me jump in here real quick, guys. All right. So at the planning and zoning, we did this for like over half an hour. Nothing's changed in these plans. The council's going to either vote yes or no.
They weren't answered then. So these questions were not answered then. They haven't been answered by the village attorney, who I was directed to meet with. They have not been answered by Corradino Group, who I was directed to meet with. And we have 250 feet of a single-family residential property that is completely against code. There's 4 other code violations that are definitely, if anybody here was unaware of them, or the gentleman over here believes that this is not an environmentally sensitive area, then I think that this needs to be reevaluated.
Okay, all right. So I think, hold on. I think I see what's happening, because a lot of these things, like for example, the brownfield with the floor, that's been brought up like 4 times. So if you're saying it hasn't been answered, I mean, he just responded to it, like straight up. I don't know. So, and what I'm seeing here is this, and this is what I'm, because basically what it kind of boils down to is you're against it, you're going to be against it.
Not against this, I'm against following
Let me-
through
let me-
with what our code allows to develop a project
And
that's going to
when-
be better for El Portal.
And when Councilperson Urban first started speaking, he started to address these things. And then they started to respond to him. For example, it seems like, because you guys are talking about, you're saying that it's environmentally friendly, or is labeled as something. Attorney Fernandez is saying there might be animals there, but there's no official label.
Correct.
Now, you may feel there's a lot of things in life that are not official. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't fight for those things. That's fine. But for you to say that it hasn't been answered, there's no way to answer it, because it seems like on one side we're talking about emotion. I see a lot of animals. I feel like this is environmentally friendly.
No, it says it in our code, section 2419, environmentally sensitive areas. Little River is named in each section of this code because that is what is depicted as the environmentally sensitive area of El Portal.
And the code that continues to be mentioned, I thought you had it right there. He responded, but so this is why. So what it seems is that, so you're going to say it again, and he can respond the way he responded before, and then you'll say that's not true, and you're going to say what you're going to say again. Then he's going to respond the way he responded before, and then you're going to say that's absolutely not true. You're going to say what you're going to say
Look at
again,
the code.
and then he's going to respond, and he's saying look at the code also.
But okay,
So we
should
can so we
able to
can
have
be
a
here.
discussion about the facts of the code.
But what I'm trying to say is that until he says what you want him to say, we're going to be playing tennis all night. Because you're saying code, he's saying I have the code right here. This is what it says, and you're saying no.
So okay, so is it should I read the at least 15% of any lot area must be retained in landscape? That's the code. Now, whether or not it's 14% or close to that, that is with another question which has not even been answered and is not
Hold
on
on,
the
hold
site
on,
plans,
hold on,
is what is under
hold
that
on,
wood decking.
hold
Is
on.
it concrete?
Hold
is
on,
it natural
hold on,
surface?
hold on,
That's
hold
not
on,
in the site plans.
hold on.
That would not
Hold
be
on,
pervious.
hold
We're
on. You
making
said
an
nothing's
assumption.
being answered. The brownfield floor thing has been addressed. This next thing is the code. Okay, so you say what does it say in the code, and I'm gonna have you read what you see in the code. Let's do it again.
Without the wood decking, it's 4% pervious surface. So I don't
Okay.
know, can at minimum there be an answer on what is beneath the wood decking so we know if it's at least close to 15%?
But no, before you weren't talking
Sure.
about wood decking.
Okay.
Before you were reading another part.
Sorry about that.
There was another aspect of the code. What was the aspect of the code you want to answer before?
This is part of the environmentally sensitive area, which I believe that everybody here should be well versed on, considering this project. But the 15% of any lot area must be retained in pervious landscaped grass or natural covering, including retention of native trees. Now, Durham separately requested disapproval based on the trees, asked for a follow-up. There was no follow-up. And so to say that, like, okay, we're going to move forward with this based on Durham's disapproval seems a little backwards. I understand that that's sometimes how these things work. Having said that, this is not even related to what Durham is suggesting. Durham is not looking at our El Portal code. They're looking at general Miami-Dade, et cetera. Okay. Now, specifically here, we have El Portal code, which specifically states that at least 15% of the lot area must be retained in pervious landscape surface. So again, there's essentially none that is being left in natural grass or natural covering as, what would be ideal. So then the question is, with all of that wood decking included, then we're still at a percentage below the 15%. Plus, we have an impervious seawall that the wood decking is going on top of, and we don't know what the substrate is beneath the wood decking. So,
all right, so
that might be impervious.
Okay, so let me just say this. So once again, when Councilperson Urban started to speak, he said the same thing. Durham denied something. And then they got up, and I looked at them and said, did Durham deny you guys anything? And they said, no, Durham hasn't denied. So again, we're back at the same position again. You're going to say one thing.
There's the disapproval, there's the recommendation for disapproval. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's the recommendation for disapproval here in this document that I sent to you. Durham is recommending disapproval of this application since the applicant has not provided information depicting the specimen trees as preserved and has not applied for a tree removal permit to determine if the specimen trees could be removed. This was back in August.
All right.
Why was there no follow-up to this?
Come and talk
so
about
much later.
Durham doesn't differentiate between a site plan application and a permit application. It was denied because it was incomplete. Okay, all we're asking now for is a site plan approval. Yes, when we go to Durham with the actual application, then we will have a comprehensive plan that will not be denied. Okay, but there was no corresponding permit ever submitted to Durham. El Portal required that we have the site plan go to Durham for their review, but they had to deny it, or they had to recommend denial because there was just simply not enough detail. It was not a formal permit application. So it's a totally different thing.
But that's not what it said. It said
Okay, well,
it
that's
said
what
that it was specifically related to the native specimen trees that are being removed.
I think we responded to the comment. Those
Your
four trees.
response is basically that the trees need to be removed anyway and they don't matter, right?
Well,
I didn't say they
That's-
didn't
okay.
matter. I just say that they're in an area where the village itself would want them to be relocated at a minimum because they're on the pedestrian walkway along the river bank.
But that riverbank could very easily be incorporated with those trees, with the natural vegetation.
Not if you were going to improve the seawall. No, they're growing on the seawall. If you want to improve the seawall, the trees are going to have to be addressed.
They very well, and that process should be done.
Okay, well, that's what we're talking about
I
here.
understand, but you're requesting a site plan approval before that, and that
Of
seems like
course
putting
we
the cart
would. Do you suggest
before
we
the horse.
go for a permit before a site plan approval? No developer would consent. to
Yeah,
do
nobody
that.
would do that, go for a permit before the site plan approval.
I mean, we're asking.
So
for the village-
again, I think we're arguing a lot, which, I'm just saying, you know, maybe, logical connection and things like, but I think we're arguing from the basis of, I don't like this, and there's an emotional aspect to it. And then they're responding with procedure. This is why this is occurring. And there's not going to be a conclusion tonight.
I understand that.
And-
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. And go ahead.
No, I understand the procedure, but I also understand that, of course, they don't want to spend the money. It's in their best interest to get the approval first and then go and figure out whether or not this could be done. But that does not seem like the right way to go about this for the village. And I've been in construction. I understand this process. And sometimes you do have to do that. You do have to carry those expenses as part of your cost of doing business to do this project.
No,
And
and
you're asking
Alcohol
for
doesn't
variances.
Tolerate that.
And
We can't present a plan for permit without site plan approval. It's just
Okay.
simply not tolerated here.
Okay, all right. So right now, there's things that you're going to consider that weren't answered, correct?
correct.
Okay, all right. So council, there's things that weren't answered. Okay, duly noted. All right, you guys can sit down.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah, go ahead.
Public- And Mr. Mayor, if I just may, you have competent, substantial evidence in the record. You have a favorable recommendation from your professional staff.
Absolutely.
They've reviewed the applicable criteria in the code, and I will state for the record that we do need to comply with all these Durham regulations.
Absolutely.
And if we can't, there will be an adjustment to the plan, and we'll be back before the administration seeking that adjustment to make it work.
Absolutely.
If that's any consolation to you.
South Florida Water Management also in their last correspondence said that there were serious issues with the site.
Well, it just shows you, we
So-
adapted our plan to address their comment.
Understood, but there's no further correspondence with
Well,
them.
we're
in
not
the
developing a dock.
in the public
End of
record.
story. That's what they said. You can't, because that's where they manage
No,
the
they
canal.
also said there was issues with the wood decking, which is the main aspect of the open space.
Obviously,
and-
those
and
things are, you
pervious.
comply with during the permitting process.
Understood, but currently South Florida Water Management, in the only correspondence, which has not been followed up, whether there's no update to that, has said that there are major issues with it. Having said that, also to note that the point about pedestrian views not being preserved, that was also not true in the way in which it reads in the code. It says that any redevelopment of the canal front property east of the FEC railroad, so specific.
Keep reading. Keep reading.
Specific directly
Go ahead and
to
keep reading.
your property, shall not only meet the above, but also preserve pedestrian views.
Keep reading. From.
And
Yeah.
access to the canal.
Yeah.
For those, so the
No, but
end
you haven't
is
finished.
access,
You haven't finished.
access to the canal for those occupying the adjacent building or buildings.
Exactly.
But that is a separate
I
statement.
think the relevant part
But
is
that
the
is a
end.
separate statement.
It is for the
from-
benefit of adjacent
so,
properties.
Okay, that is
Excuse
a
me,
very-
sorry, Mayor, you also have other residents that want to speak on the topic.
Okay, I'll just finish up very quickly. Yeah.
Sorry, I have to run to a meeting. I work in a company and I work with Asia, and yes, I have a meeting at 9 p.m. I apologize. Just one point to help our friend Scott out. Just
Sorry,
super
name
quick.
and address real quick for the record.
Oh,
please.
sorry, Christy Coppas, 8501 Northeast 4th Avenue Road, at this corner down the street. I just want to say, I said it last time, like, I will say that our property, like his property, sits on that back corner. We are probably the critical ones directly impacted by view, noise, all the things. You already said it. I support development. I understand it. I want what's best collectively for our community. I do ask that to the extent that we can do this in an effective way, right, to develop and maintain the charm to the extent we can, right? That's our main ask. And the foliage does act as a barrier, right, to those things. I think I said in the last meeting that Cavista did, when they turned those lights on, like, that was a game changer for us because we had this beautiful oasis. I accept it, I understand it, but to the fact that, you know, to the extent that we can minimize the impact, right, directly on our properties, that's our biggest ask, right? So the foliage, the trees, you know, along the lines of the train tracks, you know, that helps. Yeah. And, you know, to the extent that we can protect the habitat, of course, you know, that's important, I think, to all of us. But I just wanted to add that. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for trying to come to a compromise that benefits everybody. I know it's not easy. So
Thank
just
you
wanted
very,
to throw
very
that
much.
in there.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll finish up real quickly.
Go ahead, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Is there a possibility that we can put this on another? It seems like a lot of open stuff. Got too many loose ends. We just keep going because this has gone much too long for the benefit of the village. Can I hear you? This conversation has gone much too long for the benefit of the village. It seems that everyone can identify that we don't agree. And we need to agree. But it's not in this session that we're going to agree. The two groups need to get together, pull it, say what needs to be done. Mayor, if we do this tonight, now you fill in the blanks.
They're never going to agree. It's never going to happen. So as council members, as representatives, we need to just vote what we feel we should vote. It's not going to happen, you guys. It's not going to happen.
I agree with that.
So they're not going to agree.
And if we leave any more time, the questions will still remain.
It's going to remain 100%.
And they will morph, but this is essentially the same conversation that we're just kicking down the road and having these endless meetings. It's not fair to the residents. It's not fair to the applicant. We have all the information that we need, and we need to make a decision based on the information that we have.
Absolutely.
And what we reasonably believe. So I don't think that means that you guys should shorten the conversation. I support the mayor running the meeting in the way that he sees fit, but I do think the culmination of this should be some sort of finality for everyone involved.
Okay, I'll finish up real quick. So having said that, I appreciate that. But the only issue with that is I believe, from my understanding of this, that the site plans will be approved tonight. And therefore, if there are issues with the site plans by Durham, by South Florida Water Management, that those site plans might change, as well as very serious issues being communicated by me and other residents. It seems that it would be understandable to potentially be able to gather, and that's not, I don't think, an accurate or fair statement that there is no middle ground. I believe that that middle ground could be came to, and I believe that this project could be done in an amazing way that will benefit all residents of El Portal as well as the Barrington brothers. Having said that, before I close this, obviously we spent a lot of time talking about the environmentally sensitive area, but the one question that I think that was very important is also about the clear 250 feet part of the code that is right adjacent to Z3. So is that something that there's going to be any elaboration on, or is there just,
That was brought up and answered like 4 times already, like 3 times already, you guys.
Can you
Councilperson
one more time
Urbom said,
for me, Mr. Mayor?
Councilperson Urbom said the distance. Somebody else brought the distance and you brought the distance. I think that's the 3rd time. They answered it from building to building. Attorney Fernandez.
But can I just a question of process, if maybe they understand that and they are for these several things, including that, the council, persons will want to approve a variance to these things.
I'm sorry,
But
may I approach Mr. Mayor?
Can I just
or
finish the, okay.
Distribute this, I think this
sorry,
will clarify.
yes.
This will clarify.
but-
This is section 24B.17.
Okay, I just want to
That you
finish
are
my-
referring to.
Okay, I just wanted to
So
finish my
The
point.
word is principal building, right, building height.
Go to the mic.
I'm sorry, principal building, building height, and then the 4-story limitation maximum within 250 feet of Z3 applies to the building height. It's not measured from the property. It's measured from the proposed building, which sort of makes sense, because you could have a very large property and a building sitting right at the edge of it, on one edge, or at another edge. And so the measurement is taken from the building, and I'm happy to submit this to the record.
So I guess the question is, for what I was trying to say before, is that with these items, including the stuff previously talked about, including this topic, wouldn't the proper process be for that to request variances to those? And if those were going to be approved by council?
It's not a variance.
not a variance.
It doesn't
It
apply
doesn't
because the
apply.
building is spaced.
That is not that's an interpretation
That's-
of that.
no.
All right, that's
It
it.
says, okay.
That's
in
it. That's
in
it.
that exact
That's it.
code,
Property line to the building.
It says.
It's
It's
public
property line
benefit-
to the property, I
It
mean,
says
building to building.
public benefits program
That's it.
very clearly cannot be
anybody else- do we
used
have anybody
within
else?
250 feet of Z3. Not, okay, I'm sorry.
Do we have anybody else for public comment? Hearing, seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a
250 feet of
quick
Z3.
response?
I'm going to come to the council.
Okay.
Councilperson Winters, just wait for a second.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. I very much appreciate it. And
Thank you very
sorry
much.
to keep you here, but I do believe this is an important thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. Appreciate it. Seeing here nobody else from the audience, do we have anybody from the council? I know Councilperson Winters. Go ahead, member.
Mr. Kobrick, thank you for sharing your concerns about the project. I truly value your perspective and the care you show for our community. We notice it. I'd like to express your points directly, particularly regarding the size of the building and its potential impact. If you're not familiar, just 2 blocks south of El Portal, there's a 9-story building between 2nd and Miami Avenue. It's right next to the Citadel, which is a commercial space that frequently hosts rooftop concerts, loud music, well into the evening. These properties are even closer to some of our homes than the buildings being proposed here. To my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, there haven't been significant complaints about these buildings despite their size, noise, and activity. In fact, I personally own the property directly behind these buildings and recently received notice that they're building a 12-story building right there. This changes our area inevitably, especially as Miami grows. What's important is how we guide the growth to ensure it benefits our community while maintaining the character we all value. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the comments made earlier by Christy Copas. Christy expressed valid concerns about foliage, habitat protection, and how the natural landscape helps maintain privacy and connection to the environment. Those are important points, and I believe we should incorporate measures to address them as part of the development process. Thoughtful landscaping and preservation efforts can help mitigate the concerns raised while still allowing this project to move forward responsibly. Mr. Kobrick, I agree with you that we need to approach this development carefully. Like you, I want to see El Portal grow in a way that serves our community. I would also like to see more commercial elements included in this and future projects. Mixed-use buildings with a greater focus on business and amenities could provide much-needed spaces for local entrepreneurs and enhance the services available to our residents. The proposed building is smaller in scale than some of the nearby developments, as I just explained, and has the potential to be an asset to our village if managed thoughtfully. I believe the example of similar projects nearby demonstrate that developments like this can work when done responsibly. With that said, I believe it's time to move forward. I would hereby like to proceed to vote on the project. If I hear a second.
Thank you very much. I guess there's a motion by Councilperson Winters. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Martin. Any further discussion from the council? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, for G7, may I please have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Urban.
This is not the exact property I would wish for. However, if wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. I believe my questions have been answered. I will vote yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
I want to know more about that quote. I really do. Let's delve into it. I would say yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to G8. Let's read that into the record real quick.
Resolution G8, El Portal to launch Little River Special Exception. Resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, granting special exception approval for new construction of multifamily residential at 8300, 8316, 8356, and 8358 Northeast 4th Place in Zone 5 Urban Center Zone in the Village of El Portal. An application by the launch at Little River LLC, providing for findings, providing for conditions, providing for appeal, providing for an effective date.
All right. And the reason why, if you guys saw us huddle up, myself, Clerk Jacoby, the attorney, Ms. Hammond, is because what he just did, like read the whole thing, he's going to have to do that for 1 through 6 that we didn't do. So we were like, oh, when should we do it? Let's do it. So that's what we were talking about, just so everybody knows, like, well, we were huddling up or whatever. So look, some of the residents who've already passed, they're here because Clerk Jacoby was like, I want to catch them on camera, like being here while he reads it. So let's try to get through these. All right, you guys, we spoke everything about the launch. Do I have any questions or comments from the council? I shouldn't.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think you should incorporate the comments from the past hearing into these two votes because it's the same project.
It's this, no, it is. This is, oh, Ms. Hammonds, come to the, I got to do my Ms. Hammonds part. Yeah, it's the same exact thing. Ms. Hammonds, have there been any adjustments, conditions to G8?
There have not. This is the same application in form as was approved at the planning board meeting.
All right, thank you very much. Do you have any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. Hearing none. Do I have any questions or comments from the audience? All right, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve G8?
So
Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, second by Vice Mayor Martin. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Councilperson Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Let's go to G10. You can read that into the record. G10 for me, please.
G9 or G9?
Is it G9? Oh, like, right, G9. 1, 2. Yes, G9. Sorry.
Resolution G9, El Portal to launch Little River on street parking. Resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, granting variance approval for on-street parking on a 50-foot right-of-way for new construction of multifamily residential at 8300, 8316, 8356, and 8358 Northeast 4th Place in Zone 5 Urban Center Zone in the Village of Upper Tile, an application by the launch at Little River LLC, providing for findings, providing for conditions, providing for appeal, providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ms. Hammonds, have there been any conditions, any adjustments?
There have been no changes since it was approved at the planning board meeting.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments from the council?
Does that mean that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward?
Does it mean that they're gonna park on the highway?
No, no.
Well, what does it mean? I mean,
No.
I'm looking at it, but it's not making a whole lot of sense. It says something about parking on a 50-foot right-of-way for new construction of multifamily residential.
Yeah,
But
just,
after that, are they still gonna be parking on the?
Attorney Fernandez can fill in, but it allows for on-street parking. Attorney Fernandez, if you want to go through the details.
Well, absolutely. Well, the actual request is to allow the on-street parking, which is the way parking takes place throughout that entire area. All of those buildings in that area, most of them are non-conforming and lack parking under the current code. So many people park on the street, visitors park on the street. We want the ability to park on the street because Fourth Place is a dead end in any case and only provides access to Cavista and to the launch. Those are the only two buildings that would have service from this end of the street. And so we're asking for the variance to allow the parking on that street. Because typically with 50-foot rights of way in the residential portions of the village, they prohibit parking in those areas.
Is this in perpetuity?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions or comments from the council? Hearing, seeing none. Any questions or comments from the audience? All right, hearing, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve G9?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Urban. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Martin. Madam Clerk, may we please have a roll call, please?
Councilperson Winters,
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, Councilperson Erba,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Have a good evening.
Next is G10. Do we have to do G10? G10, yeah, it's still you guys. G10, yeah. Go ahead, read in the record.
El Portal, the launch, Little River residential exceeding for 50% of acreage, new construction. A resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, granting variance approval for residential exceeding 50% of acreage for new construction of multifamily residential at 8300, 8316, 8356, and 8358 Northeast 4th Place in Zone 5 Urban Center Zone in the Village of El Portal. An application by the launch at Little River LLC, providing for findings, providing for conditions, providing for appeal, providing for an effective date.
Ms. Hammonds, do we have any adjustments or conditions?
We did not. This is what was approved by the planning board.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. Do I have any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve G10?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Urban. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call, please?
Roll call, Councilperson Winters,
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, Councilperson Erba,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Let's go back to G1 and read that into the record. This was 256 Northeast 90th Street.
A resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, granting site plan approval for the construction of a detached garage in the backyard of 256 Northeast 19th Street in Zone 3, suburban residence in the Village of El Portal, an application by Freddie Pennant, providing for findings, providing for conditions, providing for appeal, providing for an effective date.
All right. G1's not here anymore, but it's passed. All right, G2, read that into the record for us.
Garage
Hold on, before you say that, what was the G1's vote? Do you know what G1's vote for? So we can say it into the record. It was 5? Okay, yeah, it was 5. 5-0. G2,
Garage enclosure, 66 Northwest 87th Street, a resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, authorizing the approval of a variance for a garage enclosure conversion which does not comply with Section 5, or which does comply. Was that? No, which does not comply with the section 566 garage enclosure.
does.
Which does. It's a typo.
That's right.
Yeah,
Which
that's a
does comply with section 566 garage enclosure of the Code of Ordinances at 66 Northwest 87th Street as requested by David Dawson, providing for incorporation recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, did that pass, Madam Clerk?
Yes, it did. 5-0. 66 Northwest 87th Street is not here anymore? Okay.
Okay.
5-0.
G3, read that into the record for us, please.
Resolution front setback hedges, 401 Northeast 86th Street, a resolution of the Village Council of Upper South Florida authorizing the approval of variances for hedges in front setback, which does not comply with section 24B15G, and gravel in the swale, which does not comply with section 2422I1 at 401 Northeast 86th Street as requested by Augustin Valles, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. We do have the applicant here. Good camera work. Very
And-
good, very good. Shout out to
And that
Full- shout out to
was
Full Moon.
4-1. Vice Mayor Martin voted no.
Okay, thank you very
4-1.
much. Thank you very much. Next one is G4.
Garage enclosure, 100 Northeast 89th Street, a resolution of the Village Council of Upper South Florida authorizing the approval of a variance for a garage enclosure conversion at 100 Northeast 89th Street as requested by Giovanni Orego, which does not comply with the section 566 garage enclosure of the Code of Ordinances, providing for an incorporation of the recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, and we do have the applicant here. Wait for the camera. Very good. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
That was 5-0.
All right, 5-0. Let's do G5.
Garage enclosure, 353 Northeast 85th Street, a resolution of the Village Council of Upper South Florida authorizing the approval of a variance for a garage enclosure conversion at 353 Northeast 85th Street as requested by Luis Glickman, which does comply with section 566 garage enclosure of the Code of Ordinances, providing for an incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. We do have the applicant here. Very good. Madam Clerk, what was that?
5-0.
5-0. Thank you very much. Have a nice night. Take care. And G6?
Site plan addition, 44 Northeast 89th Street, a resolution of the Village Council of Upper South Florida granting site plan approval for an addition to a residence at 44 Northeast 89th Street in Zone 3 suburban residence of the Village of Upper South Florida. An application by Alfred Vaca providing for findings, providing for conditions, providing for appeal, providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. We do have the applicant here. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Madam Clerk, what was that?
5-0.
5-0. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go back down, you guys, to G11. So let's read G11 into the record.
Lot split 176 Northwest 88th Street, a resolution of the Village Council of Upper South Florida authorizing the approval of a lot split at 176 Northwest 88th Street as requested by 88th Street Homes LLC and approving the Miami-Dade County waiver of plat, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, so guys, so this is basically just a formality. So what happened was this already passed. It passed at the planning and zoning level. It passed at the council level. They've been waiting for a very long time for this. What happened was that when it passed, it should have been included into that resolution, by the attorney that, we accept the county's exception. And the county supersedes us anyway. We have to accept it, but it has to be written in there that we would accept the county's exception of what they're doing from the plat committee at the county. And so this just goes back to putting that language that should have been there in the beginning in the resolution. That's all this is. It's already been passed. There's nothing to talk about as far as should it be passed. It's already passed and passed. It's already been through the county level. So does anybody have any questions or comments about that from the council? Okay. Hearing, seeing none. Any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve G11? Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Winters. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call on G11?
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Erbaum.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is G12, the amendment to lot coverage form-based code.
In ordinance of the Village of Upper South Florida, amending the form-based code, Chapter 24, Zoning and Land Development Code, Appendix B, form-based code, Article X, definitions and terms, lot coverage, providing for findings, providing for conditions, providing for appeal, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for severability, providing for Scrivener's errors, providing for conflict, providing for inclusion into the code, providing for an effective date.
All right, between Manager Lou and Ms. Hammonds, you guys want to jump in and talk about this?
I'll let Ms. Hammonds take it from here.
Yes,
That this was her baby.
Yes, I brought this before you as a discussion item much earlier this year to look at how we could better define lot coverage, and that is in support of how we look at our planning applications. We had some instances where some of the development community was kind of interpreting it differently, and that created some instances of our review. And so we thought that it would be better to clean up the definition. And this request, again, was brought before you as a planning board. It was, the recommendation was to move forward. It's gone before you at first reading in February. And now we're bringing it back again, just as a formality at second reading. There were no comments, and everything was accepted as I prepared.
Okay, do we have any comments, questions from the council?
Sorry, what language specifically are we changing?
We are adding that impervious surface will be clarified to include all impervious surfaces, and also to consider excluding wooden decks. That wasn't specifically defined in the code. It just said deck was an exclusion, and that became an interpretation, and we wanted to just clarify that it would only apply to wooden decks, because water can go through a wooden deck, and that makes sense, versus other deck materials, which could be concrete or other impervious surfaces. So we're adding, just clarifying.
So the only single exception for a deck as a pervious, so all decks are impervious with one exception of wood deck.
Wooden decks, correct. Yes.
Should I?
Councilperson.
I know that a lot of decks have been made with wood in the past, but we've actually changed to a lot of other fake wood items made out of PC materials and other things, but they're still allowing to drain the same way a wooden deck would. Would these be included in this?
Correct. That would be how we would enforce it. Yeah. Even if it's not a PVC, if it's not real natural wood, then we would still consider that the pervious surface area.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments from the council?
Well, just a quick question. Just want to say thank you for bringing us closer to a code that is less up for debate and less confusing. So I know that this is something we've been speaking about for a while, especially in the Planning and Zoning Committee. So love that you kind of saw this one through, and I definitely support us moving towards a clearer code. And if I'm correct, Biscayne Park uses a similar analysis,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Yeah.
that was kind of where I got the idea from.
Perfect, perfect. So I think we can glean guidance from our neighbors. It's been functional with them. You've done your research on the topic. Thank you so much for seeing this one through. I support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Appreciate that. Anybody else from the council? Okay, hearing none. Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, hearing, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve G12?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second? Second by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Erbaum.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the reports, Madam Manager, if you could just say really quickly something.
I'm going to say very quickly, it is day 10 of December, so we don't have a full month to report out, but do know that we have lots of activities and lots of projects that we are working on within the administration. I do want to bring everyone's attention to the Santa's Express gift delivery, which is going to be on Saturday, December 14th. Here in El Portal from 6 to 8 p.m. There are 3 easy steps to Santa delivering your child's gift, so please check the village website to get more information. It's going to be a wonderful evening with Santa helping the El Portal Police Department come to the community and give our community's children these beautiful gifts. So we ask you to take a look at the village website or this flyer about Santa Express, and that is an initiative that is an initiative that Vice Mayor Darian Martin started last year. It was such a roaring success that we had to do it again this year. So be on the lookout for that.
That's right.
Yes, so, and another thing I wanted to let everyone know that the village has once again been recognized as Tree City USA by Arbor Day Foundation. So we're serious about these trees, and, you know, it's good to talk, that everybody feels the same way about them. But we have been consistent year after year with our fantastic tree board led by Councilperson Urban. And with, you know, just all the members really pitching in to ensure that we bring that necessary element to the village and that we protect it. So we have our 2024 Tree City USA recognition, and we did receive a $10,000 grant award from for the 2024 Urban and Community Forestry Capacity Grant Program. So we just got that, and we will. I will be meeting with Robert Ruano, who is our grants manager, to review on ways we can spend that. We weren't able to plant for the last 2 years based on a non-compliance matter from the county, but we'll still move forward. We want to plant. And we want to do it responsibly and resiliently. So for now, that concludes my report, but please stay tuned and check the village website for my report, which will be posted later in the month. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Manager. You guys see my report there. If you have any questions, everybody has my contact information. Call me, text me, email me for anything at all. Any questions, comments about anything that you guys want to talk about. All right. Do we have any attorney reports, or are we good?
Mr. Geller just wanted me to say that we haven't been sued, or we haven't sued anyone. So that's all to report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And thank you for filling in. We appreciate you, my brother. Good and welfare. This is the last good and welfare. You have supposedly 3 minutes, but I always give however long you guys want. For anybody to talk about anything at all.
I would like to speak about the manager report really quickly. I already spoke with you, Madam Manager, about this. You have the conceptual concept, the conceptual street master plan. I was viewing it with some neighbors, and there's a lot of changes that they're talking about. And I think it's a really great idea to have neighbors talk about it and go through it before everything is passed, and we have all one-way streets on every single street and roundabouts at every corner. This elportalstreets.com is a really great tool that I see you've provided for the community. Is there a way that we can get this out to the community even more? Because a lot of neighbors I spoke with had no idea about it.
Well, what I can say is that we held a town hall meeting here. The vice mayor was present. I know Councilperson Urban was present. Former Vice Mayor Perella was also present, and even Councilperson Ward. But we had a lot of community members here. There was a workshop. They all participated in this workshop. There was a survey that was put on the village website and promoted. This has been going on for several months. And based on the outcomes of the workshop and the surveys, that is where our urban planner, Pluserbia, was able to create this master plan. So a lot of members of the community were present. I know that Mayor Nickerson even walked around with those flyers to alert the community and to give the QR code for the survey. We posted it here on the website as well as at the Village Hall. So we did leave it open for a significant amount of time, and I did put it in my manager's report for several months as well. So at this point, it is on the village website, the conceptual street master plan, to be reviewed. It went through a demonstration at the Planning and Zoning Committee. I believe that was in September. Or actually, no, it was passed through council in September, so I think it was presented in June or July, whenever that meeting was. It may have been June or even May. But this has been a process that has been in the public forum for a while. And if there are some concerns or questions, do have residents reach out to me, and we can maybe wrap Mr. Muralat, who's with Pluserbia, into the discussion. But these were things that residents did want and requested based on those surveys and the workshops.
But this is not finalized yet, right? You're still taking feedback?
No, it is finalized.
So all the streets in El Portal will be one way?
It doesn't have to be, no, but this
Because-
is the Resilient Streets Master Plan, but no, all of them are not gonna be one
It's not
way.
fine, yeah, it's not.
So is
It's
there
not
still room
finalized.
for our residents that did not go on the website and share their thoughts to still do it, or is it already closed?
That part is closed.
Okay.
But again, if there are some concerns, perhaps we can, collect that and put it into some kind of report, and we can present it to the planner to maybe consider if you want to amend it. But again, it was open for quite a while, and we did reach out considerably to encourage people to participate. This has all been a part of our roads, we're trying to lower speed limits, change the look of the village, improve the mobility in the village as well as safety on the roads. So this was a big part of that. And that there was considerable outreach for that. So.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Anything else for good and welfare?
Oh, just like a general, and it's just a follow-up on the master plan. I do think maybe you want to sit with some of the reps from Placerbia and just kind of go over the plan and the purpose behind some of the decisions that were made. And as far as like continuing to engage around the topic, I think since you know some people that may not be familiar with it, you serve as a great hub to engage them, get their collective feedback, but I think you should do that after you talk to Placerbia and get the reasoning behind some of the decisions that were made in the plan. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Mayor. Anybody else for good and welfare? Okay. Hearing, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by, I think it was Councilperson Urban. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none. The council meeting for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 is adjourned at 9:32 p.m. Happy holidays, everybody.